Battlefield is finally Battlefield again. You've probably heard that quite a lot over the past few days now, ever since Season 4 started, or rather Tsuru Reef came out. And that's also a bit what this video is about, why this is finally the right step and why this kind of map means so much for Battlefield. So first of all, we're back in the Pacific Theater. That of course immediately brings back memories of 1942, for example playing Wake Island, which is coming later in Season 4 now. In 2 or 3 weeks now, to be exact. So, the remake of it, of course. And not to forget the ominous Pacific update for Battlefield 5, where everyone thought, awesome, now things are really kicking off, we're making a fresh start with Battlefield 5, and then unfortunately they dropped it like a hot potato. And this feeling is, of course, also connected to that, significantly even to the size of the map. Many who maybe only just jumped into the Battlefield series now with Battlefield 6 might think that it is way too big. That's practically a walking simulator. To them I can say, once again, use a lot of vehicles, like the transport vehicles, if they are available. There could be a few more on the map, different topic, but such large maps are extremely important for this Battlefield feeling, for this big sandbox feeling. But at the same time, it's not really that much of a running simulator, because on these islands, which by the way also don't feel like they just took a map and slapped water on it, I mean, with all the canals, and it's basically 6 islands that are connected like that. So that is already very, very well designed, I think, with attention to detail. Where's the Megalodon? Maybe he's coming on Wake Island? We'll see. I'd be kind of half mad if this Easter egg didn't exist now on these maps. Anyway, yeah, so it just feels really good, like it's cast from a single mold, designed like that. For me, it's just not really a running simulator, because it still has choke points. Well, I don't want to call it that, because choke points aren't really as choky as they usually choke when you talk about choke points. But most players do swarm around in the middle, for example, on D in the village. So when I'm playing infantry, I'm mostly on the way between F and D. So that's probably how it'll be for a lot of people. That means the longer you play the map, the more you will also know where to go, where the running paths are, where you can intercept people, where you can also flank people. Also extremely important for Battlefield, and you just learn how to play this map. It surprised me a bit that the hotel, the big Hainan resort remake, so to speak, isn't really in the game that much. I mean, sure, you go there sometimes, but I had somehow imagined it to be more central. Because, like I said, actually this central landmass in the middle with the village is much more the anchor point of this map. Around that we have these satellite points. There are 9 of them in total, which is really a lot for Conquest. For example, also a small island like that, which is C, which in principle isn't used very much, but such points are also important for Battlefield maps. I'm reminded of Sinai Desert from Battlefield 1. There was a point somewhere in the middle of the desert, out there in no man's land, that was captured super rarely, but that also spreads out the combat action a bit. And there we don't have this stressful non-stop shooting all the time, like on the rest of the Battlefield maps, except on Golmud Railway, maybe. Because that feeling found its way in there too. I already said back then in Battlefield 6 that this is the right step, and this island is an even righter step, if you want to say it like that. Because initially I also thought maybe it actually is a bit too big. I wouldn't even want all Battlefield 6 map to be this big. Definitely not. Maps like Hagenthal, or even the smaller maps like Hagenthal or Cairo Bazaar, or the other Cairo map, which name I spontaneously forgotten right now, also need to exist in Battlefield. But what bothers me a bit is the ratio in Battlefield 6. I think it should be 70% large maps, and then 30 or maybe 35, for all I care, slightly smaller to really small maps. That would be the right ratio for me. That means Battlefield 6 basically put the cart before the horse. So it first had to go really wrong, which you can see in the loss of the player numbers, not the sales, because those were actually pretty good, to realize, okay, shit, we really need big maps. And I hope they stick with that now and actually work more on large maps for now. Because we already have enough of these small to medium maps, which are also awesome for having a bit more action in between. But I think what makes Battlefield is this large scale and exactly this sandbox feeling. Yeah, naval warfare is also back. Also an awesome thing. And I'm starting to like more and more that it's actually rather this small boat and not a big, I don't know, a big cruiser, a big destroyer or something. Would that fit? Is the question. How do you want to integrate that? I think it's also done quite well. And there we come back to this flank idea, because that is also integrated into these boats, or at least the CB90. So I'm talking about the attack boat now. Because we have a hatch in the front, or a ramp, and when you basically push your nose onto the sand, then this hatch opens in the front. And then you are a mobile spawn point. Extremely cleverly done. That way the boat just has a whole lot of functions. It can't just fight, meaning direct or mortar fire, or being anti-air, so it is really a central piece of this map, or of the gameplay on this map. And of course, people have to warm up to things first. Like nowadays, you always want everything to just click immediately and work immediately in the first 10 minutes. But I believe that you just have to let the whole thing sink in a bit first, play a little, learn the boat a bit, see what the right loadout is, and so on. Sure, people post 1 hour after the boats are online that this is the perfect loadout. And that's why my videos on stuff like this always come out a bit later, because, yeah, I want to form my well-founded opinion and not just immediately be the fastest just to be the fastest. If you like that, drop a sub. No, the call to action for the sub is coming a bit later. What I've also heard a lot is there are too few players, that 64 players are, and there should be at least like 100 people on the map or something. And I see that completely differently. Sure, if people would distribute themselves evenly across the points, then maybe that would be good. I don't know, but the problem is they just don't do that. You can see it now too, that most of the people are just hanging around there on D and F, on the central thing, or maybe at the hotel, and they would just clump up even more then. And then you would have the exact same problem again, that there are simply too many people there, then the sandbox breaks again, and so on. 64 is really the sweet spot for Battlefield. Come back to this strategic thought again. I don't want to say that Battlefield 6 is suddenly a full-on strategy game. Absolutely not. However, on such a big map, you can just capture points much more tactically, or rather strategically. I'm always talking about conquest now. For example, also with this ramp. You can then drive over to C for once, capture it just to have one more point, to maybe have a spawn point for your team there again in order to invade the enemy point from behind. And that was always conquest for me, and not just mindless running straight ahead. Thinking about it a bit, what does the team need right now? Where would it make sense to spawn now? Where would it make sense to maybe fly a helicopter to for once? Speaking of transport helicopters, they are already a bit annoying on the map. Could that be? But that is maybe also because people haven't equipped or unlocked the missiles for the attack boat yet, in order to shoot down transport helicopters quickly or often. That ties back to what I just said, that it also just takes a little time at first until people have maybe gotten a bit used to it. Yeah, the map just feels like there are many little wars spread across, and I just find that so awesome. You can actually just fight for the D point all round long. No problem at all. You can spend the whole round on D, hold it, defend it again, maybe lose it, then go back there, and so on. Or you just do it differently and circle around the whole time and capture. So it just invites so many playstyles and ways to play. Sandbox. That is what that means. Plus, you could try things out, because you actually have a bit of peace and quiet for once, and so on and so forth. So the size of the map is just crucial for the game feel that made Battlefield so big. We could really print that quote on a t-shirt. Not everything has to be that big, no question at all. Maps like Hangtal or Metro definitely have their justification then too. It's not necessarily my thing, but that's okay. Destruction is also a topic, but I only want to touch on that briefly, so that is used really well and in measured doses on this map, I think. Like too much would be, for example, if you could completely tear down the hotel, Levolution so to speak. That would be too much for me, but the level of destruction is finely tuned and already quite good. If you look at the D point, this village for example, I just keep coming back to that, or at the beginning, and then look at it afterwards. It feels like not one stone is left standing on another. Nevertheless, you still have cover. That is what I always say, that there just still needs to be cover despite the destruction. Superbly solved on this map too, I think. The question is also, does this map need attack helicopters? Well, the boats would definitely be completely screwed then, because they already get destroyed really quickly anyway. That would also be a point of criticism I have. I think the boats could use a bit more health, so they already get shredded pretty badly by the little bird, which you have to earn for yourself, however. Also a good thing that it isn't just sitting in spawn, but it is parked at E, so at the hotel, spawning there. So you have to do a little something to gain a bit of air superiority there. Also a good thing. Let's get to jets. Here too, super positive experience for me there. You can actually fly properly for once, plan attacks, maybe circle around something, approach from behind, and so on. You can't do this on the other maps at all. Am I satisfied with the jet gameplay in Battlefield 6? Absolutely not. There are no real dogfights at all. The TTK against each other is way too short. I've already mentioned that 1,000 times, but still it works much better on this map. Railway to Goal mode showed how it can be, and here it's almost even better, I think. Nevertheless, you unfortunately don't really have a huge impact on how the round ends, but that's a different topic. So yeah, especially the spawns on the boat, so the ramp I just mentioned is exactly an extremely underestimated feature up until now, I believe, because a mobile spawn point like that is pretty crazy. And here again, the reference to my previous babbling, that people first have to find out a bit and then actually use something like that too. You can nicely park yourself there and all the people can spawn there. So yeah, that is Battlefield Conquest in a nutshell for me. That is how it has to be. Mechanics like that have to exist in order to just scratch at this tactical depth a little bit too. For me, the map is super successful. I can't say it any other way. Does the game have problems? Definitely still. You don't even need to talk about that, or rather, I think I've made enough videos about it already, and you don't have to repeat it all the time now. Just for the people who think I want to sugarcoat something here somehow. No. The game definitely has its problems and isn't perfect either. Weapon balance netcode isn't where it should be either, and so on. But I just see that the design language for the game is a completely different one now compared to what they started with. And that does make me positive. I hope they continue in this direction now. Next up is Wake Island. I'm actually curious for that because I don't necessarily celebrate the original map that much, but they have shown that they can do remakes if the basic structure of the awesome map is there. That's why I'm curious to see how it plays. If you don't want to miss that, there's the sub button, just press it hard once. Here's more entertaining stuff with me. Click on that too. Yeah, that all sends signal to the algorithm, and then it's happy. And then I'm happy, because then I get a few plays or views more, and we'll see each other on Tsuru Reef. Bye.